Hi, everybody. I'm Joe Lample, the Joe behind Joe Gardner, and welcome to the Joe Gardner Show. Today, we're doing an encore episode because it's Thanksgiving week, and I wanted to bring you a great story. And this is one I really enjoyed when I first recorded it over a year ago with my friend Erin Benzakein. You may or may not recognize the name, but you certainly recognize the brand and the company, Floret and Floret Flower Farm. Well, that's Erin along with her husband, Chris. They have been a dynamic duo starting from the ground floor of their small, at the time, flower company outside of Seattle, Washington. And since then, things have really taken off, not by accident, but by hard work and just being really smart at what they did. But today, their business has expanded exponentially into a very large company outside of Seattle and Skagit Valley in Washington State. And along the way, with a very successful flower farm and seed company, Erin's heart is in helping people grow flowers. And she's done that very successfully, training people in over 50 countries how to have their own flower farm through her course, Floret Online Workshop. She has a documentary film company now, and her first documentary was heart-wrenching. It was called Gardening in a War Zone, with a flower farmer there that lives in Ukraine. Incredible first shot at that. She's a New York Times best-selling author, on and on and on. But the thing I love most about Erin is, in spite of all her success, and I'm proud of her for that, she is so down to earth. You would never know that she's anything more than the most basic of people just wanting to grow plants. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's very impressive that she's able to do that and manage a very large company. So with that, let me stop and just get you ready for this episode. I think it's perfect for the season and one to just sit back and enjoy. And I really appreciated the opportunity to sit down with Erin and ask her some questions that really help us get our head around, really, how does she do what she does? It's pretty amazing. So with that, enjoy, and I will see you on the back end. And I think you're really going to like this one. Erin, what a pleasure to take some time with you today to learn about your story and some of the behind the scenes things. And you just have so much to share, and so many people love what you do and love you and Chris and your team. And we feel like we've gotten to really know you through your candidness and your willingness to share. So I'd love to just start off with your story. Everybody has a great story, but you have an exceptionally great story. And start where you would like, but I would love to hear where this love of flowers came from and how that has evolved to the next big step, I guess, with maybe where Chris comes into the scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, before we get into it, though, I just have to say how happy I am to be here and how grateful I am that we're having this conversation, and what a many years fan I've been of your work and your show. And Chris, our favorite episode is the behind the scenes one where you showed how you made an episode.
Oh,
We watched that like way too many times. So we're huge fans. This is really exciting.
thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah, so we started off, Chris and I were like high school sweethearts. We met each other at boarding school. So we've known each other a very long time. And our dream was always we worked in the city, we lived in the city, and we wanted to get out and move to the country. And when our kids were born, we just wanted to have a more kind of wholesome, slower paced life, something more connected to nature. We really just wanted to raise them in a more wholesome environment. So we left Seattle when our kids were really small and we moved to the country. And Chris was working full time. I was home with the kids and trying to figure out, what the heck am I going to do all day besides just being with the kids? I'm so energetic and passionate and I love growing things, but how can I what do I want to be when I grow up? What do I want to do? So I tried out a lot of different business ideas. I had 100 chickens at one point, trying to do a rainbow egg business. I planted an orchard to do a cider business, but I didn't really think of how many years it would take for those trees to mature. I grew vegetables. I tried everything in our backyard. And eventually I stumbled onto flowers. So flowers were a part of my childhood, and I loved them. And my great grandmother, when I would go spend time with her in the summer, would have me go pick bouquets, bring them into her bedside table. And so when she passed away, I planted sweet peas, which were her favorite flower, in my garden. And they were like the beginning of everything. They bloomed so incredibly that first year. I cut a bouquet of them, took them to the neighbors, gave them away to everybody. And then I got my first official flower order for $5.
This is great.
Right. So all of this started with a $5 jar of sweet peas, and it's become what it is today, many, many years later. But yeah, it all started with something very simple.
Yeah, it was funny when I heard that story. You took that I think you took that bouquet up to the person's front door, and I think you said you want to do like a ding dong dash or something where you drop
Totally. I
it.
just wanted to drop it and go. I was so nervous. And she opened the door, and then I
Yeah.
didn't know what to do. So I just pushed the sweet peas at her. And then she took like a big, she inhaled and her eyes filled with tears. And she started telling me stories of her childhood. And my Grammy had just passed away. And so my eyes are full of tears. And like, it really struck me in that moment how quickly we connected, even though we were total strangers, but it was through nostalgia, memories, and flowers.
Mm.
So that's when I really knew, like, this is what I want to do. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that means, but flowers and me, there's something there.
No doubt. And I also loved where you talked about when you, after your great grandmother died, that was the
Hmm.
inspiration. And then you planted 2 rows of sweet peas, I think, in your
Yeah.
backyard of your new house, and you spread her ashes for
Yep.
good luck.
Hmm.
I think it
And they
worked.
were like that. I've never grown sweet peas as
Yeah.
amazing as that first crop. So yeah, Grammy's still here
Oh
with
my
me,
gosh.
like that's the beginning of it all.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So at some point, I mean, there's a lot of fill in the blanks that we won't be able to cover today, but how long ago was it, Erin, from those early days where Chris is doing his job, you're trying to figure out what you're going to do, to when you really got serious with the flower business?
So I've been growing flowers for like kind of professionally, but a lot of it like, experimenting in the beginning for about 20 years. So a lot of
Mm,
people think this was somehow overnight. It was not. Very slow, steady, consistent growth. And we really started to get serious about it in 2008. So, I mean, it's been a bit of time. And we started out as flower farmers, selling bouquets and bunches of flowers. Our big customer was Whole Foods. So we delivered
mm,
flowers all over the, Pacific Northwest.
mm,
And then that evolved into teaching and writing books,
mhm.
and then a seed company. And so it's evolved, but we really got our start as flower farmers.
Yeah. And when you bought your land where you're at right now, what is that?
Mhm.
Skagit Valley? And
Yeah, we're in Skagit Valley, so we're about an hour north of Seattle, and
okay.
it's some of the best farmland in the United States. It's
Mhm.
incredible. It's this little tiny, beautiful pocket of magic.
Yeah. And is it what, 24 acres, I think? Something like
It's
that?
24 acres now, but for the first
Yeah.
12 to 15 years of our growing career, we grew on 2 acres. That's it. And we only recently were able to buy the neighbor's farm and expand. So we got to buy the property next door, but we've been doing most of what we've done on a very tiny piece of ground.
Wow. And
Yeah.
it's not easy work. And I would love, you've said this, I've heard you say this, and we have a mutual friend that's confirmed this, but you've described yourself as an extreme introvert. Is that right?
Yes, very extreme. Like I could just be out in the garden for the rest of my life and never talk to anyone and be just fine. Like I'm shy in groups, very introverted. So it's easier to be with a camera than it is to be with a group of people. I don't know what it is about
Okay.
that, but
I
yeah,
get it, because I would describe myself as an introvert too. And I think a
yeah.
lot of people that hear you say that can't believe that that's how you describe yourself, because you don't come across that way at all. But being an introvert myself, I know that, you know, when you're asked to do things that you're not comfortable with, that's not an easy thing to say yes to. So my question to that is, when Magnolia, I guess I'm fast forwarding a lot here, but when Magnolia Network or whoever it was that came to ask you to do the documentary, where you're going to be on camera for a lot of time, maybe you've already given me the answer when you said, talking to a camera isn't the same as maybe being in a group of people. But still, how did that, was that a hard decision for you, I guess, based on you knowing you?
Yeah, I mean, it all depended. So we had this amazing opportunity. Magnolia said that, we had just bought the farm and it was this raw piece of ground. And I knew it wanted to become a place, and I was going to start the process of developing the land. And so we started having that conversation, like that would be an amazing story to follow. Like it would be, we were going to do a lot. Like this would be really cool. But I didn't know like we're very private, even though we do share openly about a lot of things, our personal life is very private and I'm very introverted. And so we spent a lot of time thinking about what is that going to mean for our life? And, like just really considering it. But what was so amazing is that we got to work with this wonderful production company from Portland. It was a match made in heaven. If it had been anybody but them, we would never have done it. It was like they were great people. We really trusted them. It's a small team. And we just kept it like really tight. And we kind of all sort of pinky swore from the beginning, like we're going to tell a real and honest story. Nothing is going to be manufactured. But we also were able to set really great boundaries. Like we don't want to do a lot of time with our family, or there were things that were off limits from the beginning, and everyone respected that. But weirdly, I have a very easy time with a camera, but I have a very hard time with people in real life. So I don't know what that is. So I get to know a lot of people, but I don't have to go into a large group.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. And maybe it's something about just talking to that little round lens that's on either the
Yeah.
phone or the camera. And, fortunately that translates and it certainly does for you. And
And I
did,
do think it has to depend on who is behind the camera.
yep,
You
yep.
know, the cinematographers that I've worked with, they're all like the most peaceful, grounded, chill people. And they just like put you at ease and you forget that the camera is there. So I think that has a lot to do with it. You're just like, oh, I'm just talking to a friend. And you forget that you're being recorded.
Yes. On that note, and these are all on the fly comments or questions as I'm listening to your answers. And now, obviously Chris is with you all the time and he's the one behind the camera much of the time.
Yeah.
And clearly you're comfortable with him being your camera guy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you are you and he's letting you be you, which is really nice because then those natural moments just really come through. Even those long pauses where you are just out there soaking in the scenery and watching the birds fly over and he's just letting that moment happen. And I think that's really
Mhm.
some of the most magical times of watching all of that. So,
Yeah. I feel that I can be unguarded and
mhm.
completely myself. And
Yeah.
he's so grounded and peaceful and calm that we're just in the moment, which is incredible. Like I think it's sort of a one in a million combination. Like it's not normal or common. But it's been pretty amazing because he taught himself photography. And then when we started filming season one, all the big cameras were here and everybody's working on the crew. And Chris is just like sort of looking over their
Yeah.
shoulder in the beginning. And then you just see him carrying a tripod and then he's holding the boom. And then he's just sort of like slowly worked his way in. And then eventually he's holding a camera and then he's got the easy rig on.
Yes.
And then he's refilming on things that we needed me to be really calm or just totally unguarded. They would have him be behind the camera. And
Oh,
so it just gradually happened. And then in season two, he got to film a bunch of it.
yeah.
So it's incredible. And it hasn't been that many years. And but it was this amazing team of Blue Chalk Media down in Portland that we got to work with. They just took him under their wing and taught him everything. And he's a quick study.
That's fantastic. So you two make a great
Yeah.
team, but you also have a great team.
Yes.
And I guess what I'd love to know now is kind of what that's evolved to number wise, maybe not that that's important, but definitely I want to give a shout out to Jill because she seems to be your sidekick in a lot of the things that we see. And she's obviously a very important person and clearly a dear friend. But that introduction story was kind of fun to hear. And could you just give us a recap on how you all met?
How I met Jill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she is one of my first flower friends, and I had delivered an arrangement to a local little cheese shop. And I put my business card, I was trying to grow my business. I didn't
Yeah.
know what I was doing. So I made a big bouquet and I put my little business card out, and she had picked it up. And I think a year later called me and wanted to order flowers. She was a florist at the time, and I was a farmer. And she left me this long rambling message trying to buy flowers from me. And I was so nervous and so excited. She had a $500 budget. It was the most I had ever sold. And so I called her back and we met in the Denny's parking lot and my little kids were fighting in the back seat, which was so mortifying. And I had this car full of flowers and I was just like, trying to make a good impression. And Jill is like such a loving, laid back, funny person. And she didn't even care. And she loved the flowers. She got all, tears in her eyes. And we were just like immediate friends. And we've worked together ever since. And it was our dream all those years ago to someday be able to like actually work together. Like,
Mm.
could this be something that could be like a real job? And we've written books together, we've filmed
Oh,
shows together, we've taught workshops together. I mean, we've done it all. Yeah,
yeah.
Jill's right there through all of it.
Is she the creative director? Is that her title?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
And
she's like a combo. I feel like Jill's
right,
everything.
right.
Like she's involved in every single important, meaningful thing that leaves Floret. Jill has had her hands on it.
That's why I ask, and it clearly seems that way. It's hard to even have a title for somebody like that. They're kind of the
Totally.
everything
She's
person.
like everything. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And wasn't it
yeah,
funny when I think she said initially when you all were starting your conversation, I think she was just like, just let me come do something for you. Let me just start, no matter what that was. And then look where it's evolved.
totally. She's like, just let me help you because I tend to make things very big and complicated very quickly. And
Yeah.
Jill makes things simple and organized and calm. And so she's like, just let me help you. Just a couple of hours a week. Like I can help rein this chaos in. And she did.
Yeah.
And she's been reining it in ever since.
Yes. So
Yeah.
let's talk about some of the farm life because as we
Hmm.
get into a topic I want to discuss in just a minute about, your seed sales and your big sale that you just came off of recently, which was huge. Um, the flowers are pretty, the shots of the farm are gorgeous, but it's not all puppy dogs and kittens. It's not easy to run a farm. And I think you're working roughly 50 weeks out of the 52 a year, and you're working your tails off and you're always Mother Nature has Mother Nature's way, and you're just trying to make the best of it. So my question there is, there's a lot involved that people don't see about the challenges of the farm, but thanks to the documentary, a lot of people have learned much about that. But one of the things that caught me was your nightly farm walks. You and Chris get out there after dinner and you walk your farms. And I related to this in my small little way here, but you kind of dread that nightly walk in some ways. A lot of people would think, "Oh, that would be so I would love to have that farm walk every night." But when it's your farm and all of that's on the line, it takes on a different feel, right?
Yeah, so I mean, we never want to go walk the farm. It's always this like, because you just know you're going to find something.
Yeah.
Irrigation's going to be blown off
Yeah.
the spigot and water's going to be shooting everywhere. The crows will have pecked holes in a greenhouse, or you're just going to see all the things that need your attention, even though we have this amazing team of people helping us take such good care of the farm. It's always there's something broken, something wrong. So it starts out tense. I have my notebook, we're making
Yeah.
a list. But what's crazy is by the end of it, always by the end of it, we're calmer, we're more relaxed, we're more grounded. And it's like this reminder of why we're doing this. Like you can, as you get to the back of the farm and you get to the meadow and you're like, okay, all right, relax a little bit. It's just like it's like medicine that you don't want to take. But by the end, it's always wonderful.
Right. It's good for you and you have to take it and then
Yes.
and good.
Yeah. Oh, sweet
It's
kitty.
Larry. Larry's a girl cat, but
Oh, we
we
have a
didn't know that.
Timmy who's a girl.
Uh-huh. Yeah. We
Yeah.
didn't know it. So um, I took a chance and I spelled her name Larrie, thinking that she might be a girl. And when we took her to the vet, she confirmed that. And so
Nice.
Larry stuck. Yeah. So everybody needs a good farm cat, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. In the time that you've been on your current farm, you've seen a lot of changes, a lot of growth, just many changes in many ways. But one of the things that I know you've made note of and commented on and acted on is just in recognition of the impact that the climate has had lately on your farm as well as everybody else's, but you're seeing it firsthand and you're having to make some changes. So maybe some of the things that you have done tangibly on your farm to try to work with nature or
Mhm.
counteract some of those challenges. Can you share some of that with us?
Yeah, so as we have gone about developing and planting the farm, we are really planning for the future, knowing that the planet is heating up, that things are changing, the climate is changing, weather is just more extreme overall. So we have planted, at this point, it's over a mile of hedgerows around the entire property. We have different, we have solid species hedgerows, like they're more like hedges, like in England. We also have mixed shrub hedges. We have native plantings. We have a lot of different plant combinations that we're trialing to see what to do the best, what, get established the fastest. And the benefits of the hedgerows are that they slow the wind down, so they're going to help with erosion. And they also provide habitat for all of the wildlife and songbirds that we're wanting to bring to the farm to help with, pest disease issues, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So we're really wanting to encourage, that we want this place to be a home for all of the creatures that want to live here. We also have broken the farm up, rather than one big farm, into a bunch of smaller blocks. And
Mhm.
so we rotate the blocks. Some, say 3 of the 10 blocks are in production at one time and the others are in cover crops. So we're really working to put as much possible back into the soil. It was very depleted when we got it. And so we're investing a lot in soil. And then we have a lot of hoop houses and different structures because we live in a very wet climate here in the Pacific Northwest. We get a ton of rain, and we're trying to grow crops and things that don't totally love our climate. Zinnias specifically, which is like what I'm breeding. So we have a lot of covered structures to help, just make a nicer environment for plants, less rain. And then let's see, what else were you doing? Just so much. We make our own compost. We planted what we're calling pollinator strips, which are these
Yeah.
long perennial plantings to attract pollinators, both to help pollinate our seed crops, but then also just provide these like nectar and pollen banks for as many pollinators as we possibly can. So we're doing a lot of experimentation to see what works and what doesn't, and a lot hasn't worked, but most of it has. And it's really exciting to get to experiment on this kind of a scale and then get to share what we're learning
Yes.
with others.
Yes.
Yeah.
What I found a lot of that interesting in learning about that with you. And what I related to and found quite humorous was, as you and Chris were out there filming and talking, and next thing you know, you just look up and there's a deer or two or maybe more walking through.
Right. And I meant, like, I want wildlife, but not deer. So no, now the farm is so delicious that we have deer and a mama and her babies. And we're like, what have we done? We've never had deer trouble
Yeah.
before. So yeah, and rabbits, they're just
Yeah.
exploding. Yeah. Cause they
Yeah.
can hide in the hedgerows. So it has also had negative,
Yes.
well, it's fine. It's fine. We're learning to deal with
You
it.
seemed very chill about it. It's like, well, okay. And like when the deer were walking through, and I related very much to this because I have the same issues here. You just like, okay, go along, walk. It's like,
Yeah.
shoot. And I liked your approach to that. Not that that's very scary, but it was funny to see that. But you
Yeah.
did mention that with the good that you thought you were doing, you had the challenges too, like whatever was coming and like kind of chewing through your irrigation lines or getting into the mulch to get to the
Mhm.
critters in there. And so, but you learn to live with it, and it kind of balances out in the long run, doesn't it?
Totally. And I think that's like so much of farming. You do what you can with what you have. You try to control the parts that you can, and then you just have to like go with it on the things that you can't and learn from it. And, if we want to be more closely connected to nature, we also have to embrace all of that uncertainty and all of the change and all of the, so it's a balancing act. It's not that it's not frustrating or sometimes devastating when it's happening. I mean, we've had some of the most harsh weather in just the last handful of years that we've experienced in all the time that we've been farming, sort of one thing after another, from drought to smoke to just like the wettest spring on record. And we
Yeah.
lost more than half of our crop.
Ooh.
Um, it was brutal. It was like, I felt like throwing in the towel, but at the same time, like, I think it's good for people to see that this is farming. This is when you go get your flowers or your seeds or your strawberries or, whatever you're getting, just know that the people behind these crops are working so hard, but there's so much that they can't control.
Yeah. As you say several times, they're touched by everything that you grow is touched by many hands.
Many hands. Yeah.
That can't be underemphasized. When you got your land, even though that was prime farm country, that is coveted land in the world, that's some of the best farmland there is. Your soil, when you bought that farm, was less than ideal, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we are on a sandbar.
Uh-huh.
The river would wash over and leave a lot of sand. So the soil is very sandy here, which is just fine, except that it's low in organic matter. But the way that the farm had been being grown, like the treatments and approach they had used was purely chemical. So spraying every few weeks, lots of herbicides, fungicides, nothing ever put back into the soil. And then it was a blueberry farm, and all of the plants were on just a straight drip of nitrogen through the irrigation. And when we ended up digging a lot of those plants out, all of the roots had been burned by the chemical fertilizers.
Oh,
So when we got our soil tested, we had so far to go to get it to a place where we could start to heal that and then get it back into good, working order. So it's been a huge investment of time and just like organic matter
yeah.
to get the soil. But we just got our soil tests this morning. We were talking about it and we're like, our numbers are looking so good. Like things are heading in the right direction. But yeah, it's been the farm is coming around, but it was definitely like in a little bit of rough shape.
And it just takes time, but
It
it's all
does.
in your case and in everybody's case, it's just doing what you have to do, but in your case, bringing in lots of organic matter and just
Mhm.
constantly replenishing that. And
Yeah, manure, compost, cover crops, wood chips, just anything we can get our hands on, and mulching as much as possible, leaving, fields to just rest and, just be in cover crop. And it really does work. It just takes time.
yes, does take
Yeah,
time. Fortunately, although gardeners are impatient, we also, the reality of it is we know we need to be patient to get the
exactly.
results. Yeah. Okay. So now I want to talk about your farm evolution. And
Hmm.
Erin, when you bought this property, you and Chris bought this property, were you already a seed farmer versus a flower farmer selling flowers? Was it always seed, or did that transition at some point once you got there?
So we were flower farmers for the first, I'd say, 15 years of
Okay.
our journey. And the seed growing actually it came about because I started breeding new flower varieties and had to figure out like, how do I do this? How do I save the seed from it? Like, how does this all work? So the seed part of our path has only been maybe the last 6 or 7 years. So we're newer to that than we are. So yeah, started as flower farmers, and now we're seed farmers and also flower breeders.
Interesting. So I have a few
Yeah.
questions there.
Hmm.
On the on Was it recently that you retired your seed line that you had been selling to now just go with the Floret originals?
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Let's see. We recently made the big decision and the transition from like for about 9 years, we have offered this full line of beautiful flower seeds. I mean, it's been an incredible offering, an incredible run. But as the breeding and the new varieties have taken up more and more of our space and time, and I'm so passionate about it, we
Ah,
really had to make a choice. Like I can't do it all, can't
mhm.
do it all well.
Ah,
And the breeding needs our full focus. And I really believe that the work that we're doing with it is going to make a big difference in the flower industry and for home gardeners. So we decided to set down our existing seed company and send our customers to all these other wonderful small companies, family owned, seed farms that they could find things from, and then really put all of our energy into developing new varieties and teaching people how to save their own seed.
yes. And you just said a very big thing there when you said what we're doing is going to be a big thing for flower farmers and home gardeners. And
Mm-hmm.
paraphrased, but there's a lot behind what you mean by that, and I'd like you to elaborate on that because I know that a lot of people, especially with the cut flower industry, a lot of that comes from overseas, and they're hybrids and they're built for shipping and not for pollinator friendliness or whatever. But open pollinated is what you're talking about when you are selling seeds now from what you have that's stable. They can buy your seeds and then they can save those seeds and continue that legacy without dealing with the fact that if it were a hybrid, it wouldn't come true to seed if they saved it.
Exactly. So pretty much every flower variety that is making it onto the market at this point is a hybrid, meaning, it's not something we can ever save our seed from, which hybrids have a lot of positives. They're very vigorous, they often are more disease resistant, they're very uniform. So in farming, you're looking for that uniformity. There are benefits to it, but you can't save your seeds. You have to buy new ones every single year, and you're dependent on these large companies. You don't know where the seeds are come from. You don't know where they come from. You don't know who grew them. And I just wanted to, as part of our breeding program, really focus on developing varieties that are open pollinated so that home gardeners can save their own seed. They can use it in their own breeding efforts. It's great for the pollinators. There's just like so many wonderful benefits. And then you never have to buy seed again if you don't want to. You can just learn how to save your own and, keep that cycle going.
There is a flower as a seed seller. People listening to that might think, well, that doesn't make sense if she's a business
I
owner,
know.
seed seller. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I read between the lines, and I think that that has to do with what I think your bigger picture is all about. And that's getting more flowers out into the world. And especially now in the face of climate change, what can you do to provide the most appropriate flowers in those gardens? Am I on target there?
Absolutely. I mean, to me, I know that I've succeeded if someone has learned something and they are more independent. They're more empowered. They're, able to go off and do the thing that they want to do. So I don't want them to depend on our company or on me for anything. I want to teach them what I know, give them the tools or the supplies or the seeds. They can use seeds from anywhere. It doesn't have to be from us, and learn how to do something new and be more empowered and more excited. So I feel like we've succeeded if everybody is able to save their own seeds and they can go about their business. And I love the abundance of it.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, I know people are like, you're crazy. Why would you do that? Or why would you focus on breeding varieties that are open pollinated versus hybrids? Because then you can't protect them. You can't keep
Yeah.
them, but it's what I believe in.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we're trying to be part of the positive changes, like the part of the solution. I don't want to keep continuing the problem.
I love that. Would you mind, for those that aren't quite sure the difference between a hybrid and an open pollinated, could you just give us your quick explanation? I hate to put you on the spot, but I've heard you do it and you're
Yeah.
good with it. Just what a hybrid is versus how do you stabilize to get to an open pollinated?
Well, let's see. Since my background is not in
Yeah.
science, I'm not going to explain
Okay.
it in a very scientific way. But in the flower world, let's take zinnias, for example, because that's
Mhm.
something I've been focusing on breeding. There are a handful of hybrid varieties that are on the market. They would be the Zowies or the Uproar series. And if you've ever grown them, they're fantastic. They're super healthy. They're very vigorous and they're very uniform. But the way that they were created, they're created by crossing two different varieties together secretly because you don't know
Yes.
what the two parents are. And the seed from those grow these amazing flowers. But if you save the seeds from those plants in your garden and plant them out next year, they will not come back true no matter what you do.
Right.
So it has this kind of built-in, you just have to buy again. You have
Yeah.
to go back to the company and buy again.
Yeah.
The zinnias that we're working on they're a stabilized variety. So while they're open pollinated, they still will come back true. But over many years of development, like in the beginning, maybe just a handful of the flowers that are in that row that I'm working on might be true. And then I, work on that the next year, a little bit more true, a little bit more true. And by 6 or 7 years in,
Yes.
they're very stable and
Yep.
uniform. But if you save the seeds off of those, as long as there's not other zinnias around, they will come back true. And so it's such a gift because you can save your own seeds. Yeah. And
Perfect.
then you never have to buy them again.
That's right. You did a very good job of explaining that. And I wasn't
Okay, good.
surprised. Yeah, you seem to be a little unsure of yourself, but you nailed it. So thank you for explaining that for our listeners too,
Yeah,
those
totally.
that didn't know. And so on your big sale that you just came off of, you were featuring what, three different variety, two types of flowers? Yep.
So we had 26 varieties total that we've released as part of our big debut. And we had zinnias, celosia, and dahlias.
Mm.
And so exciting to get to see all these varieties go out into the world. And then 4 of the zinnias that we released were grown and bred in collaboration with another flower breeder down
Yeah.
in California,
Yep.
Corey from Dawn Creek Farm. So that was really
Nice.
fun because she's this amazing breeder, but she has a little tiny backyard scale and we have land. And
Mhm.
so we worked together on that and could help take her babies and get them into the world.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And
Yeah.
that's something else that obviously you're passionate about is working with other flower farmers to help them be successful too, which is great.
Absolutely. And seed companies and farmers. I mean, I love helping make connections, like being the connector between the people who need or want something and the people who have it. And if I can just help play matchmaker, like that's my very favorite thing to do.
I like that. Are you going to have different species in the future? Or are you going to stick with these three, or do we know yet?
We're working on other things, but
Yeah.
it's hard to know like how successful will we be. We're
Right.
working on yarrow and phlox, and there's other things, but I feel like these 3 groups, we've made a lot of progress. So there's a lot more zinnias behind the ones. So we released 10 or 11 varieties of zinnias as part of this first offering, but we have over 130 varieties of zinnias alone in the works here. Who
Yeah.
knows how many of those will really be something,
Hmm.
but they all show promise,
Mm.
which is very overwhelming.
Well, it is for anybody, but I think we talked about your description of yourself on being an extreme introvert, but I also think that whether that's a part of what makes you so successful, because breeding is not all that easy to do, and especially when you're dealing with that many crosses and tests and trials. And so, if you were to describe yourself beyond just an extreme introvert, are you analytical or very organized or very systematic? Because
It's
that,
a strange
yeah,
combination. Like we always joke, like I love structure and I hate boundaries. Like I don't want to schedule, but then I want everything organized. So it's like this, I want to be free, but then I also want to I want order. But the way my mind works, I see everything in pictures. So I use a lot of paper. I take notes. I write everything that anyone is saying to me down because something about seeing the words
Mhm.
being written, then I can remember them. And I have kind of a photographic memory. So you should see how many pieces of paper are all around the rooms.
Wow.
So that's how I can hold all that information in my mind. But I don't know what it is, but when I look at a problem or a group of plants or really anything, I start to just see patterns and start to sort patterns. And so that's how flower breeding has gone for me. It's like all the different varieties, and I just start matching them up. I start seeing patterns and working with those. I don't even know exactly how it all happens, but I think that, I don't know if it's success. We've made a lot of progress, but I think it's because I've done things my way,
Mm,
the way that works for me, my own weird, strange, confusing, complicated way, but it works.
yeah.
And so I'm just going to go with it.
Clearly, clearly it works. And I love that you just kind of winged it there on trying to explain how that works for you, but you did a good job. And
Mhm.
it's fascinating to hear that. And so when you started this business with Chris, pursuing your passion around flowers and being around flowers and growing them, who knew then where you would be today? And
Mhm.
you've come a very long way. In fact, you even said, bigger than your wildest dreams, right? Something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And so now, you've got to be facing decisions every day that are coming at you rapidly and that are big opportunities and small opportunities. And so I know that one of your core missions is to get more flowers into the world. And is there something else that shares that one of those top positions for what you want to do looking forward with your business? And well, I'll just stop right there and let you try to answer that one because I'll have a follow-up.
Mhm. The biggest thing that matters to me is getting to help try to make a difference, try to solve problems. And we're in this incredible position where we have so many wonderful people that we're connected with and so many people listening. And we don't take that for granted. And I really want to be part of solving some of these bigger problems now that we've gotten past, the beginning years of business and figuring out what we want to do. And, all of those struggles that you experience in the early years, we have new problems and new struggles, but now our energy is really being devoted to education. How can we learn, take what we're learning, break it down into very simple steps, and then share it with other people? How can we look at what's not working in an industry or in small business or whatever the area is? How can we take that apart and use our minds and our experience to figure out what the problems are and then solve them? Like, my biggest pet peeve is when everyone just stands around and complains about what's not working, but no one takes responsibility for trying to figure out how to solve it. And so even if we make lots of mistakes, even if it's a bumpy ride, I want to be the ones that wade in and go like, well, we're going to try to help make things better. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if we're going to make fools out of ourselves or if we're going to fail, but man, let's at least give it a try.
Mm.
So I want to use our platform and our energy and our talents to try to make the world a better place. No big deal,
Yes.
but it's what I want to do.
On that note, the documentary that you did,
Yeah.
Gardening in a War Zone,
Yeah.
that was that one of those examples of like, because that didn't start out as an idea of like, I'm gonna reach out this person to do a documentary. You reached out to, is it Ella? What was her name?
Alla.
Alla?
Yeah.
And I think it was going to just be a blog post or something
Hmm.
about, and then you realized it was much bigger than that. And so this
Yeah. So
first documentary emerged from that story.
I know, it's not amazing. So Alla is a Ukrainian gardener who also saves seed, and she specializes in clematis. And so I found her because I was searching for new varieties and thought, oh my gosh, she has so many wonderful things. And I think we should share about her on our blog. Like, we could send out a newsletter and maybe she'll get a little bit of business or something. And the more we got to know each other, the more I understood her story. She's such an amazing person, is doing such amazing things, and is so unbelievably inspiring. So Rob Finch, who was the director of both seasons of Growing Floret, we have been working together more recently. We've started kind of our own venture, and we're like, we want to tell stories that matter about people that are inspiring and wonderful. And so Alla was our first big story that we wanted to follow. And all of the stars aligned for that to happen. Like, we still don't know how it even came together.
Uh-huh.
Most of it was Zoom. He taught her how to film herself
Oh,
over Zoom.
yeah.
And then we hired a cinematographer there to spend 2 days with her. And we were able to create a beautiful
Yes, it
short
was.
documentary film about her. And it was just featured in the New York Times.
I know.
So isn't that
Yes.
amazing? Yeah.
Yes, it was amazing. And our friend Margaret Roach was the one that wrote that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was a great story. And just kudos to you for helping to get that story out there about her. What an amazing story. And for those that are listening, of course, we're going to have the links to everything that Erin is talking about, to her documentary, Erin's documentary, to the documentary she's just talking about, for I missed it. What's how
Alla. Yeah.
Alla
Alla.
for
Yeah.
Alla and so much more. But hang in there, and that's just on the show notes for joegardner.com, so you'll find it. But so I guess that's the first, but not it's probably not gonna end there. Do we have another one in the works or yet, or is that to be determined?
We're working on a number of different ideas and
Okay.
projects. We're waiting. Yeah, like we're in process, but we're at the point right now figuring out, like, what exactly does this want to be? We know what
Yeah.
we want to do, but what does that look like? So it's that kind of scary first beginnings. But we've all worked together for so many years that
Yeah.
at least we have that, and we have a very eager audience out there who wants more beautiful stories. And so now it's just figuring out exactly what we're going to tell.
Do you all keep in touch, Alla?
Yeah, we are going back and forth with Alla almost daily.
Oh, that's so.
So, and what was really fun is that she wrote a book about clematis, and did a really wonderful job, and it was an ebook. And so we offered it in our shop, and all the proceeds from the book go directly to Allah. And so I have my own personal goals. I'm like, all right, we're going to sell Allah's book. And it's been so much fun. So I always report into her with like our weekly numbers. But yeah, she's hanging in there. She's doing what she can. But the film and the support from all of the amazing people who bought her seeds and her ebook and sent well wishes and,
Well,
donated money and everything. Like, her family is going to make it through the winter as long as they're, safe from the war.
right.
They were completely supported by this amazing community of gardeners.
Yeah.
So yeah, really wonderful.
Gardeners are amazing like that.
Yeah, they are very generous people.
They are. I don't want to wrap up, but at the same time, I want to be respectful of
Yeah.
your time. And we've really covered a lot of great things, but I would love to end with a couple questions to you. And maybe if I could just read back what I made note of when I was kind of preparing for this. And it really resonated with me, but I love what you said, and I'd love to hear you elaborate on it. So I'm going to try to rephrase what I think you said, and bear with me for a second, and then we can pick up the conversation. But one of those solo shots where you're sitting on a stool and one of those beautiful backgrounds, and you're thinking back on, I guess you're reflecting on how you started and where you got to today as a business compared to just being outside growing flowers. And so I wrote this down, and I'm going to read it, so I don't want to mess it up. But you said something that was interesting to me when you were describing the business side of your company versus the outside flower growing side, referring to the business end of kind of like being a factory. You said it seems a little too big, too much control, a little too perfect compared to what it's like when you're out in the field with the flowers. And that feels good to me, but it's like the exact opposite energy. And that feels a little bit off to me. And I'm not loving where we're at with that. And then you said, what I have to keep coming back to is on the inside, does this feel right? Does this feel like I'm on the right path?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the dance of being a creative and a business owner, of wanting to make things and also having to be responsible. It's like the balancing of the two worlds. And it's something that I have struggled with. I think any small business owner or farmer or creative goes through it, but it's like trying to find that sweet spot between structure and responsibility and creativity and expansiveness. And how do you know when you're on the right path? What is your gauge for if you're doing the right thing? I mean, only you can really know. So it's as our business has grown, it's gotten very big, and we have a lot of wonderful people that we work with, and we have a lot of amazing customers, and it's just a very big universe now that we've created. And I don't ever want to lose the essence of why this all started and what it's all really about. And so very often I try to step back and pause and think about it and refine and fine tune and prune and make different choices, just because I want to try to stay true to myself and on the right path.
And that comes across, and how you just said it just now. And then, in the documentary where you're talking to the camera, and clearly there's no script, and those are the things that coming out of your mouth, and clearly
Mhm.
that's in your heart and your ethos. And then I guess connected to that, one of the last things I made note of that struck me and I thought was very impactful is that, you know, oftentimes people describe a successful business as how big it is or how fast it's growing, but that's not how you measure it. You measure it on the impact that you're making based on your efforts. And your business is an expression and extension of your soul. And you have a business that's based in nature, supporting nature, but being run like a factory. So how am I going to connect in the way that I want to and need to with the flowers and the earth if I'm living so far outside of the natural rhythm and cycle myself? And it seems like you really have your finger on the pulse of that. And you're doing those things that you know that you want to really do in
Yes.
spite of the what people would describe as incredibly successful company. You're still using your gifts to stick to that core mission. Yeah.
Yeah. Always trying to come back to the why, come back to the soul of it, come back to the heart, keep focused on the North Star. It can be very easy to, there's so much pressure, there's so much noise, there's so many voices, there's so much input. And how do you stay true to yourself and what really matters to you? And that is the ongoing balancing act,
Yeah.
but it's a very worthy, it's very worth asking yourself those questions. I think, at least it is for me.
I think that's perfect. I just appreciate
Okay.
your time and keep doing what you're doing. It's impressive, and a
Thank
lot of
you.
people are being positively impacted by what you are doing. So,
Same for you. Like I'm not exaggerating. Chris and I have watched the episode of you guys making the show so many times. That was our dream, was to come. We were like,
oh,
could we be apprentices? Like, could we come and help for so long? That's how I actually met Teresa,
yeah.
was because I found a way to, I know, like that's how I met her. But we have been such huge fans, and what you do and have done over all these years is so incredibly inspiring. And you just you set a very high bar, and it's amazing.
Oof. Okay. Well, I'll take that, and I thank you for that. But right back
Yeah.
at you, everything you just said. Continued success, Aaron. And
Well,
I look forward to
thank
just
you.
following everything you're doing. And thanks for what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. We'll see you later, and you take care.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. All right, a quick wrap up. I hope you enjoyed that. I loved revisiting that episode. Erin is such a cool person, and I so admire all that she's been able to do, from just starting from nothing a few decades back, but look where she is today. And so inspirational in that she wants to give from all her success. That's so impressive. If you have a question or comment, please leave it in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to get back to you. And if you haven't subscribed, I hope you'll do that, because every new Thursday we have a new episode for you, or maybe a good encore occasionally. So there you have it. And as we wrap up for today, thanks as always to Amy Prentice, Brendan O'Reilly, and Christine LaFond for their ongoing help to make all of this happen. And next week I will see you back here again, as my goal for every episode is to help you take the guesswork out of gardening by teaching you the why do behind the how to, so that you can become a better, smarter, more confident gardener. And sometimes just sit back and see what other gardeners are doing too, like Erin was today. All right, so that's going to do it. And I'll see you back here next Thursday for another episode. And until then, have a great week. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way, if you're catching this live. And I will see you again a week from today. Take care, everybody.